The Ministry of Interior was created in 2015 following a merger between the Ministry of Internal Affairs and the Ministry of Police Affairs. It is a federal government organ which evolved from the Ministry of Internal Affairs, which was created in 1957. At the core of his mandate is providing complementary internal security and other ancillary services within Nigeria. It is this security component that we are focusing on this week on Dateline Abuja. The new minister has assumed office, insisting on his 7-point agenda. And in our focus on the FCT, we went with him on a tour of some of these agencies. Our guest helps us unpack how diverse and crucial his mandate is as Nigeria battles internal security and what challenges he may have to surmount in the course of his duty. We also have for you an update on major stories from Nigeria's presidency. This is Dateline Abuja. Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Megwa. Let's begin with that update. What happened this week in the Bola Tinubu presidency? Please watch this.
President Bola Tinubu has charged his cabinet to work hard and be committed to creating a buoyant economy that will serve every Nigerian. The president said this during his opening remarks at the inaugural Federal Executive Council meeting which took place in the State House. The president restated the government's policy agenda, which includes reforming the economy to deliver sustainable and inclusive growth and strengthen national security for peace and prosperity.
The expectation is high, and there's a tough time right now. We must work hard, commit ourselves, and create a buoyant economy that will serve every Nigerian.
President Bola Tinubu has expressed his deep concern over the political situation in Gabon and the socio-political instability in that country. The special advisor on media and publicity to the president, Ajuri Ngelale, while speaking with journalists, also expressed the president's belief that the rule of law and a faithful recourse to constitutional resolution of electoral dispute must not be allowed to perish in Africa. The special advisor added that President Tinubu had a phone discussion with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on the crisis in Niger Republic and the situation in Gabon, and agreed that the promotion and protection of constitutional democratic governance on the continent remains a paramount priority.
The two heads of state mutually agreed that the promotion and protection of constitutional democratic governance on the continent remains a paramount.
Business magnate Mr. Tony Elumelu has applauded some of the economic decisions taken by President Bola Tinubu, saying the private sector is encouraged by the decisions. Speaking after a meeting with the president at the presidential villa, the founder of the Tony Elumelu Foundation says he believes that with time, Nigerians will benefit from the decisions taken.
Nigerians will benefit from it because it's all about Nigerian people. It's all about youth. It's all about making sure our women are involved and empowered. It's all about making sure our youth get jobs. And I think Mr. President has this at the back of his mind, and I believe, as a private sector person, that the actions and decisions the president is taking now, in the long run, will help our people.
President Bola Tinubu has restated his commitment and support for a robust public-private sector partnership to grow the economy, saying that his administration's reforms are anchored on a strong adherence to accountability and transparency. The president said this during a meeting with the board and management of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, NESG, at the presidential villa. President Bola Tinubu has urged the Nigerian Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs to continue to dialogue with the military junta in the Republic of Niger and other areas of conflict to bring an end to the crisis. He said all diplomatic options will be exhausted with the military junta in Niger Republic before any last resort to military intervention comes into the picture, insisting that any forceful removal of a democratic government remains wholly unacceptable. The Minister of Information, Mr. Mohammed Idris, disclosed this after the council, led by the Sultan of Sokoto, His Eminence Mohammed Sahad Abubakar III, paid a courtesy visit on the president in the villa.
You recall that the Sultan of Sokoto, His Eminence, was also in Niger to engage with the military junta there. He has asked them to continue to go back in the spirit of his belief that only dialogue, only engagement can end crises across the world.
The First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, has called on the global community to channel more energy towards fostering peace, promoting dialogue and combating the forces of hatred and division. She was speaking at the wreath-laying ceremony in honor of the victims of the bombing of the United Nations building in Abuja, which occurred on August 26, 2011. The First Lady was joined by the Under-Secretary General of the UN Office of Counter-Terrorism, Vladimir Voronkov, in performing the ceremony. The Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee says its activities in the next 6 months will focus on critical areas of reforms, including rewriting tax laws. The committee chairman, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, disclosed this to journalists after meeting with the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. He says the reason for the visit was to seek the support of the Vice President on getting state governors to key into the objectives of the committee.
He has said to us, as you recommend and you get the approval, go ahead and help me to implement. So that's why we have milestones, 3 of them. The first one is the first 30 days, which is where we're focusing on the quick wins, interventions around fuel subsidy removal, exchange rate stability. And then we have the second milestone, which is the first 6 months. This first 6 months is for critical reforms. We plan to rewrite the law so they are simple, so that we remove the burden on the poorest people. And then lastly is 1 year, which is implementation. And the good thing is that the 30 days, the 6 months, and 1 year, we run concurrently.
A continued resolve to end terrorism in the country through multiple offensives and constructive operations, while leveraging on collaborations from the United Nations and countries around the world, formed the crux of multiple engagements at the Defense Headquarters in Abuja. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, met with a United Nations envoy on counter-terrorism, as well as defense advisors from different countries. Meanwhile, the Defense Headquarters confirmed the death of 39 terrorists and 156 arrests in the various counter-terrorism operations within the last 2 weeks.
Troops in the course of operations neutralized 39 terrorists, arrested 157 of them. Troops also arrested 16 perpetrators of oil theft, while rescuing 109 kidnapped hostages.
Welcome back. Under the purview of the Ministry of Interior is the Nigerian Immigration Service, the Nigerian Correctional Service, the Federal Fire Service, and the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps. The new minister, Mr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, was made Minister of Interior a night before the inauguration of new ministers, raising fears about his ability to handle the great task ahead of him, especially as regards internal security of the country. We did get to hear him speak on his prospects and pedigree during the Senate screening. This week, we went with him on a tour of the agencies under his purview, and he's talking real tough on much-needed reforms. Please watch this. There's a new sheriff in town for the Ministry of Interior, Mr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo. At 41 years old, he's the youngest Minister of Interior Nigeria has ever had. And though his emergence as Minister of Interior was at the very last minute, he has spent his few weeks in office insisting on pertinent reforms he believes are crucial to delivering his mandate. Mr. Tunji-Ojo has outlined a 7-point agenda for his time in office, and they are the deployment of technology in border security, removal of passport bottlenecks, improved fire response time, reformation of inmates, tackling insecurity, decongestion of custodial centers, and the passage of the New Fire Act. Putting action to words, the new minister begins a tour of the agencies under his purview with the media in tow. As we embark on the 45-minute journey to Sulka, Abuja, his tour begins with the Nigerian Immigration Service. A quick inspection of the guard, he proceeds to engage with the top officials of the service, promising to reward hard work and cooperation, while addressing permanent issues like delays in getting Nigerian passports.
Nobody should come and use agreement or whatever as a booby trap. If you are ready to sit up, good. If you are not sitting up, then you get out. It's as simple as that. It is unacceptable. And I'm unapologetic about this. I'm very passionate about it. It is unacceptable for Nigerians to wait for months to get passport. For anybody that is interested in passport and can afford it, it's a right, not a privilege to Nigerians. It is a right, not a privilege. And we must look at the whole ecosystem. We must look at the whole walkthrough and be able to fill all loopholes, making sure that once again, the green bag, the green passport becomes a document of pride. I am committed to this, and I tell you, if anybody thinks for every agreement, their performances indicated, you cannot just tie us and hold us responsible for inefficiencies. It will not happen. I'm telling you, it will not happen.
Next, he makes his way to the headquarters of the Nigerian Correctional Service, where there's another inspection of the guard and a meeting with senior officers. He sounds a note of warning to saboteurs of the service.
We'll give you all the support, but we will not tolerate sabotage. We will not tolerate sabotage. We're ready to work with you. But if you work in the interest of the nation, we're also ready to show the exit to anybody that sabotages national security. We want to cooperate with you. It's a symbiotic thing. We're ready to cooperate with us. Let's work together in the interest of the nation, in the pursuit of the fulfillment of the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'm here to give you listening here. As long as I'm the minister, I will listen to you. I will listen to you. Understanding that I do not have monopoly of knowledge. I want to listen, learn from you. But please, in the name of God, for whatever, in the name of whatever we hold there, let us be loyal to this country. Let us be loyal to this country.
The tour ends with a visit to the Kuje Correctional Service, and as expected, phones and cameras are prohibited. Nevertheless, after an hour of touring around the center, the minister shares a desire for reform of the facility, changing them from punishment centers to actual correctional facilities.
We will do a thorough audit of all our correctional centers and make sure that our inmates get the type of treatment they deserve. And our correctional centers will not be condemnation centers. They will be correctional centers indeed. So we'll tell you very soon, we'll come up with our audit of our facilities and conditions. And I'm sure that Nigeria will be proud of the good work we will do. We've seen the blueprint, but like I said, we are going to run with the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He believes that every Nigerian, deserves to be treated fairly, and every Nigerian deserves to be treated with respect. And he believes that our correctional centers should, as I said, should not be areas or centers for condemnation. They should be areas of revitalization, area of resuscitation of hope.
Questions have continued to trail President Tinubu's choice of ministers for his cabinet, and Mr. Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo is not left out of that conversation. With a background in engineering, entrepreneurship, philanthropic work, and politics, is he the man for this top security job? Are there underlying challenges he may find difficult to surmount in achieving this mandate of providing complementary internal security? Will he meet his 7-point agenda? Time will tell, as the president and all Nigerians watch his performance in the months to come. My guest on the program is a security management intelligence specialist, Mr. Kabiru Adamu. He helps us take a critical look at the job ahead for the new Minister of Interior, internal borders especially, and how these porous interstate borders aid the activities of bandits and terrorists in the country. Does the fact that he has no security background matter as he takes on the job ahead? What kind of reforms should he be looking at? And what partnerships should he prioritize? What is this 7-point agenda? Please watch this. Mr. Kabiru Adamu, welcome to Dateline Abuja.
My pleasure, thank you. It's been a while that we had this opportunity, so I'm actually delighted.
Well, the last time we had this opportunity, we're talking about internal security.
In the FCT, actually.
In the FCT. And I remember the time there were some attacks that had happened, and you brought up an issue, which is our state borders and how criminal elements are able to move from one state to the other without being checked or unabated.
Exactly.
And now we have a Minister of Interior. Before we get to that actual conversation as to what it is that he's going to have to deal with in the months to come, let's have an understanding of what this ministry, of course, there are other components to the ministry, but we are focusing on the security component. When it comes to security and the Ministry of Interior, what are some of the responsibilities that they have ahead of them?
So it's been argued that the Ministry of Interior is the most critical element when it comes to internal security in the government structure. Security has different components, fronts. As an example, defense is one of the components of security. There is the Ministry of Defense. But when you speak of internal security, in other words, my security, your security, of our lives and our properties, it is the Ministry of Interior that should be at the forefront of the conversations when it comes to that. However, over time in Nigeria, there have been a distortion, I think, of that notion to the point that the most important element in maintaining internal security, which is policing, is not under the Ministry of Interior. It's under
which is incredibly strange. Is there a reason why that is?
Probably politics, because I can't think of any other reason. And this is worldwide a contention, Ministry of Interior is that government structure that has responsibility for internal security.
Because it used to be the Ministry of Internal Affairs.
Yes, exactly. And then it was changed to Ministry of Interior. Now, why I brought this up, it makes the role and the work of the Ministry of Interior a little bit difficult to achieve.
So with the status quo that we have with the Ministry of Interior, until the conversation comes about this dichotomy and whether it should be changed or not, what are the jobs ahead for this new minister? Remember, we had this conversation, some days ago, where we remembered that this Minister of Interior was appointed Minister of Interior the night before the inauguration. And of course, it also brought back the conversations people have been having about, understanding who these people are. Last week, we talked about Tinubu's 45. Who are they? The screening exercise at the National Assembly was supposed to be an opportunity for us to understand, their competencies for the job if they were assigned portfolios. Presidency has given his explanation, but with this Minister of Interior, his background is engineering, philanthropy, politics, he used to be in the National Assembly. Is this the right peg in the right hole as a security expert?
So again, we need to remember essentially a minister is an administrator. Yes, it will be good if he's got technical expertise, but what is even more important is that he's got administrative skills, managerial skills, and leadership qualities. I also know, based on my interaction with the ministry, that a lot of work was done under the immediate past administration. They have a roadmap, if I remember well, 2021 to 2025, if I remember well, or thereabout. And so already they do have some reform that they have commenced. And his would be, if I were in his shoes, would be to look at that and see what components of that he wants to embrace, and then what other components he would want to bring in. He doesn't need to reinvent the wheel from what I know. Most of the organizations under that ministry, one thing that if you approach an average Nigerian today, the first thing that would come to his or her mouth is the issue of corruption. You want to get a passport today, you know the difficulties that you have to go through before you acquire a passport. So many issues. If you are a company owner, you need some documents, including, for instance, you've got foreign workers, you need the documentation they need, the processes that you have to go through, including the corrupt practices associated with those processes. So for me, that's the fundamental thing he would need to address within that ministry. What I would, if I'm in a position to assess him, what structures does he put in place to address those challenges? Spoken words, sometimes even actions, are not good enough. It's the structure. I will comment with an audit. What are the issues that allow the corruption? In today's world, technology has come in to help us. I picked something from the Europeans. They say trust is good, but control is better. If you have a process that allows you to monitor functions and see where there are lapses, then you'll be able to correct it. If you also reduce the interface between the staff and cash, as an example, you're also reducing corruption.
When it comes to civil defense, which is also one of the agencies under his purview, what changes should he be making? Because I understand where this laughter is coming from.
Honestly, with civil defense, I don't even know where to start from, because that's one organization, with due respect to them, that their mandate is not even clear.
Protection of critical infrastructure.
So that's what's written on paper, but operationally, they're everywhere. And so he needs to take
They act as additional security, so to speak, whenever they're...
He needs to take them back to that core mandate, the protection of critical infrastructure.
A lot of focus goes to defense, but there is a Ministry of Interior that is also having a security component. As is, can they make any impact when it comes to internal security?
So, border protection as an example. A significant component of the terrorist threat, and I'm using this word professionally, comes from external sources. And if we agree that the Nigerian Immigration Service, if you isolate customs now, because customs are arguing that they are not a security organization, there is no other organization that can contribute to border protection better than the Nigerian Immigration Service. So if you have a threat that is essentially externally focused, and you now have an organization that has the mandate to better protect our border, and at the moment it's not doing very well. So clearly there is a lot that the minister can do to re-engineer that function to ensure that the Nigerian Immigration Service is doing better in terms of protecting our borders.
I mean, we don't have much time, but he does have a 7-point agenda, which he has, been speaking about since he assumed office. Is he going to be able to?
So again, earlier on I spoke about the technocrats he's going to inherit. One of the things I mentioned was corruption. If he addresses corruption, he's got a chance. Second one is capability. Thirdly, the capability of most of the persons he'll be working with is not so good. And so I would expect that either through training or through some, stopgap.
You mean staff of his ministry?
Yeah. And this is peculiar with most civil service organizations in Nigeria. So he needs to have a structured way of capacity building to support this implementation of this 7-point agenda that he wants to do. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for him to achieve his objectives.
Well, we do have to wrap it up there, but I want to thank you very much for being with us on Dateline Abuja.
My pleasure.
And good luck with all the work you have ahead of you.
And you too.
Thanks to Dr. Kabiru Adamu and to everyone who spoke to us today on the program. We will try to have as many conversations as possible to enlighten the populace and highlight areas of concern for those in office. The Minister of Interior has his work cut out for him, and he has started on a high. Sustaining that high and meeting the internal security needs of Nigerians will be crucial for him. Meanwhile, the agencies under his purview have been warned. He promises that they will have the full cooperation of the ministry, but he has explained that dereliction of duty is an act of sabotage which will not be tolerated, and reforms are imminent. That's Dateline Abuja this week. Please let us know the happenings in your neighborhood using the social media handles showing right now on your screens. Thank you so much for watching. I am Kayla Magwa. See you next time.